Hey guys, Palsteron here. And today let's talk about the auction house, what you can do here, how you price stuff, how you buy stuff, how you search for items. So when it comes to getting the main currency in this game and getting crazy items, like for example, this would cost me over 3,000 Flame Elementium, your number one help will be the trade house. And the reason that is because you already have a lot of Flame Elementium sitting in your stash here, but it has different forms. It could be in embers, etc. All of these can be converted. Other people need cultivation embers for crafting, and they will give you Flame Elementum instead. But when you go into trading, your mindset should always be, what is something worth in Flame Elementum? And don't just let stuff rot in your stash, never sell it, because you're probably never going to use it. If you have to use it in the future, just buy it later again in the future. I'll show you how. But if you need Flame Elementum right now, try to list all your stuff. But let's go over how the trade house actually works. Now, the trade house is mostly used for unique items and also for stuff that you want to buy in bulk. Bulk is basically in high volumes. Like, for example, crafting embers, beacons, map materials like compasses, etc. But we're going to start up here at the uniques. Every single unique that is in the game, you can find here. So this is also a very nice place to check everything, obviously. So you can just like browse through, which is what I did when I first opened up the trade house. I just wanted to see what the items are. They're all basically separated by strength, dex, and int. Same for chest armors, gloves, and boots. When we get into weapons, they're basically separated into what kind of weapons they are. There's also shields and trinkets is separated into necklace, rings, and belts. But overall, you can't really search for anything, right? So if you click in here, not really much to say about this. They have different roles, different mods, different prices. You have to hover over to actually see what they're doing. But yeah, you probably want to make it a little bit more specific, and that's what we're going to talk about in the advanced tab. But before we do that, we have to talk about these two here, which is, for example, if you want to buy a crafting base, you can do that here. You cannot really search for mods on rares. But for example, let's say you want to craft on the Ranger's Broken Mask, you go for search, and then you can see a white one costs like 8. So you can just start crafting on this one. If you scroll further, you might get a better deal. But yeah, overall, that's it. Obviously, same distinction goes here for chest armors, gloves, etc. It's nice to look at bases, for example. Let's go here now. This is basically everything else. So this is, you can search for embers here. You can search for regret points, for example. This is to reroll your maps, energy cores, some fuel, right? If you want to buy some of the fuel, fossils, beacons, this is basically separated into different regions. You can also buy these for the Keegan. Map materials, which is compasses, memory cards, skills, whatever you want, it's all here. However, this is overall pretty simple, right? You can't really search for much. What I get asked a lot for, though, is how do you actually search for rare items? Now, there's 3 things on the side again, which is normal items, magic items, etc. There is unique items once again, and there is also skills. First, to get this out of the way, what you can do with skills basically is search for item level. So there's always 2 tabs up here, which is search criteria and then skill name. So for example, let's say I do search criteria without choosing a skill. It would basically just give me any skill. But if I say ice shot and I do search criteria, let's say I, for example, want to level 21, right? So 21, confirm, search. I would see all the 21s right here. And I could buy it directly without having to sift through pages and pages of level 1s. Now, as an example how to search for this, I will show you the unique that we're going to search for, which is going to be a pistol, and it's called Rain Sparrow. What this here does is it gives you a lot of physical damage per dex and a lot of lightning damage per dex, which is huge, but then it also says cannot deal physical damage and unable to deal lightning damage. So the deal with this weapon is you want to corrode it to remove these mods and replace it with something else so you can actually deal damage. However, you don't want to be the person who goes to search and then clicks through all of these pistols to find the ones that are actually good. So what you can do is you can go to advanced, go to your uniques right here. We know it's a pistol, so we go weapon and then pistol, just so you can see it. Okay, pistol. Now we go to base gear first. Here are all pistol listed that you can basically choose. So for example, I go to Rain Sparrow, which was the unique we want to search for. So it already has that in, only Rain Sparrows will show. And now I have search criteria. And in this menu, it will only show the mods that are on this item, which means you don't have to sift through hundreds and hundreds of mods. Like for example, on rare gear, we're going to go for that later. So choose your base gear always first, then you go for search criteria. And now you can see all the mods that can be on here. And you will see some that aren't on the weapon. For example, you know, unable to deal lightning damage was on the weapon, But there's also a mod here that was missing, 1% lightning damage converted to cold damage. This is actually a mod that is on the corroded version. For example, let's stick it right here, search for it, and now only the guns will show where the unable to deal lightning damage is removed and replaced by this mod right here. And you can do this for however mods you want. Now, I don't actually know if there is going to be a gun that has both of these. Don't think there will be. No, there won't be. So if it says no item found, that doesn't mean that it's not an eligible search. It might just mean that nobody has that item. So in this case, if we remove that and we just look for this, now we would only see the guns that have this one corrupted off. So basically, you're now able to deal physical damage because you corroded this one. Now, while that was an extreme example, let's talk about some more practical stuff. You just want a weapon that's well rolled. Now, there's obviously a roll range for items. So for example, let's go here, Sacrificial Blade Memory, right? As you can see right here, if we go for memory, you can see right here, we go to details. There is a pretty high roll ranges here, right? The difference between having 40 cast speed or 60 is huge. The difference between having 120 base damage or 150, huge. So you want to be more towards the higher part. How do you search for it? First up, we go for memory again, base gear, and then we go for search criteria. We just have to find the mod. It says 1% of the skill is damage to base will damage. Obviously, you can also use the search function up here. Let's say we type in base, it will only show this mod. Now, once we click on it, now we're looking at numerical values. So we just said it rolls from 120 to 150. So let's say we want to settle for something that has at least 140. We type in minimum 140, right? You can also type in maximum, but in this case, we don't need it. Let's say minimum 140. We search, and now only the memories show up that have at least 140 of base damage. Now, some other fun stuff you could put on top is you say, well, I want to corrupt it myself. I don't want to buy corroded stuff so I can have fun and I can gamble. You go to search criteria here once again, and on top of that, you say corroded gear. Once you click that on, it says yes. You put it to no, and now only memories that have 140 or more base damage and are not corroded already will show. That's a lot less, but these you can now corrode because they're not corroded already. Now, on top of that, some of these might not be high item level. In this case, this is 86, 86, 80, right? Which you don't want because it has less energy. So we could refine this even more. We could say item level at least 85 for the maximum energy. You click on it again, you type in 85, confirm, search, and now the one that wasn't 85 or higher is not shown anymore. And to add on to this, let's say you want a corrupted version of this base wilt. If you corrupt this base wilt damage, it will go higher. So what you can do is you can, for example, say, okay, the normal roll range is 120 to 150. Let's say I type in 151. Now it would only show the ones who are actually higher, right? So I put this in, and now you can see the price goes obviously up, but now only the ones show who actually have a corrupted base wilt stat. If you don't know what the corroded mods are, that's really annoying, right? Which is why there's a website here, Torchlight Infinite DB. I will link it down in the description if you want to, and you can go to legendary gear and it will show all the legendary gears. One thing here, this site is a little bit outdated. I think it's still from closed beta, so some things will not be completely correct, but if I search here for memory, if I type in memory, on the left side, you will see what the normal Sacrificial Dagger has, and then it will show corroded. And it shows you everything that the upgraded versions would do. All right, so searching for uniques seems easy enough. Let's talk about searching for rare items. So we click up top here, and now we're at rares. If we go, for example, for a helmet, let's say we go for int helmet, we type, once again, base gear, just as we did with the uniques. Now, instead of all the uniques, here you will see all the base types. The difference between these base types will be level requirement and the implicit that it has. So this one cannot be changed. It will always be there unless you maybe corrode it off or something. There's some extremely strong ones here. For example, this Long Night Sorcerer's Mask, which gives you +1 to spell level. If you're not stacking Focus Blessing, that's pretty crazy. And the further you go down, the weaker it gets. These also have different energy shield amounts, which unfortunately you cannot see here. Same goes for evasion and armor. You have to actually click in to know how much the base has. And on top of that, not that much changes, but let's look at the search criteria, because obviously this is now a lot vaster, because there's a lot of things that can roll on rares, whereas uniques only have the mods that are already on there. Once again, item level, if you want full energy, to do 85. If you're on a budget, you can cut this a little bit. You're not going to it might cost you a lot more to get an 85 instead of an 80, but you might save on currency. And if you're going to upgrade it later, you're not aiming for perfect anyways, right? So just buy something like an 80. You can go for example, You can go for corroded gear. No, once again, if you want to craft it yourself. If you just want a base, this is basically what you do, right? And you just buy one of the normal ones. But let's say you don't want to craft yourself. Well, it's probably not going to matter whether it's corroded or not, because you just want to buy a finished item anyways. So you can remove that. And then you go to search criteria. There's obviously a lot of mods here, right? Very intimidating. But if you know what you want, you can obviously scroll through here, right? If you don't know what helmets can even roll, you can just scroll through here. But what you can type in as well is stuff like, let's say you need erosion resistance. You type in erosion. One important thing here is, though, which is really annoying right now, and it might be fixed whenever you're watching this or in the future, it is you have to capitalize your words. And it is weird. For example, if I type in erosion res, it will show because the E is capitalized. However, if I want fire resistance, for some reason that is not capitalized. If you type in fire, there you go. I don't know why, but it is what it is. And I really hope they're looking into this. It's hyper annoying. But let's say we need erosion resistance, right? We type in erosion, we select it, and let's say we want like, I don't know, 20. We're not going for too much. And then we're going for the fire resistance we just talked about. Fire, boom, you put that on top. Let's say 25. And on top of that, we're also missing some cold res. So let's get that right here. Cold res, we do 25 as well. Let's see if there's any helmets like that. There would be one. Quite expensive though, so we can kind of remove one of these to make it easier to search for. Let's say the cold resistance is not that important, and you can also enchant it on, right? So let's remove that, and let's search for this. Okay, so there's one for 50 here, which would be a lot easier to get. However, we kind of made a mistake here, because if we're not crafting ourselves, the item level actually doesn't matter. So let's remove the item level, and let's search. And there you go. We now have even more options, and we're going down to 30 FE. I took this as an example because it's simple. I would not recommend you buy this for 30 FE, just to say that a lot of these items are super easy to craft. I will make an own video about crafting. I just wanted to show kind of how to search for them. But now that we've gone through the trade house and the advanced section, we now go to your booth. I think you have your normal booth here, and then you have one premium booth, or it's from the battle pass. I'm not 100% sure. Sorry, I actually don't know. I just know that I had these two here. And then I bought one more. Now, currently, you can only buy this for paid currency, so we'll actually have to pay. I think this is, for example, 4 euros or something. But yeah, if you don't want that, it was just because at one time I had a lot of stuff to sell, so it was just like, whatever, it's 4 euros. Overall, I wouldn't really recommend this because these get removed after the season ends, which is in like 80 days or so. But to each their own, right? Okay, so you have your booth here. This is where all your items come in. You can click on them, and there's a sales period. Now, this basically just means that after 24 hours, your item will be unlisted. And this is for a few reasons. If you forgot when you put up an item, it tells you, well, this didn't sell for 24 hours, so maybe you should reprice it, right? It kind of tells you 0 here. But it also means that people who are not logging in, they're not clogging up with their items. You would have to scroll through their items over and over, through their overpriced items, because nobody wanted them, over and over and over, and they're just not logging in and unpricing it, right? So it just gets unlisted, and then you just have to click a button here, and you just refresh it. Then you also have the history here. I usually delete my history because I don't really care about it, but if you want your purchase history, you can obviously leave that here. My collection, I'm going to be honest, I have no idea what that does, but let's go to something more interesting, which is how do you actually price your items? So let's say I just corroded this Scorching Words here, and I hit +2 fire skill level. Now, the way you price these items, a lot of you will already know, there's like a hammer up here. It doesn't matter whether it's in your inventory or somewhere else. You don't have to go to the trade house. You click the hammer, and it tells you it's 1 FE. Now, a simple thing here, if it says 100 listings at 1 FE, the chance you're actually going to sell it is basically 0. The listings doesn't go higher than 100, so this could mean there's like 10,000 people who have this item up. So yeah, you're probably not going to sell it, chances are. But there is a problem here because we have this mod. Now, you might be tricked into thinking this is trash or whatever, but if you click on the filter here on the side, we can actually see what it's worth. Now, if we, for example, search for 85, level 85, nothing really changes, right? Once again, okay, energy 60 doesn't really matter that much, but we have the +2 fire skill level. We click that and we search again. It's actually worth 10 plus FE. So be careful when you have items that have good corrosions. If you hit something where you think it's good, definitely check for it. Or also, there's some items that have good rolls. So for example, if I go to details here, the fire skill area goes from 50 to 60. Somebody might be paying a premium if you have a perfect roll here, whereas if you only have 50, they might be inclined to not buy your item. And once again, you can search for numbers here. So if we go to this filter again, you could say, well, what would this be worth if I had +2 fire skills? And let's say I had a perfect fire skill area roll. You click on this, and then it actually lets you retype this as if you had this item. You search, and now you can see it's still 10 FE. So in this case, it doesn't really matter, but there's some other items where it definitely matters. Especially expensive endgame items, people are willing to pay a premium just to get a few percentages more, because all their gear is maxed out and all they're looking for is this tiny bit of min-max. So we talked about items. What about these currencies that you have lying around that you think are worth nothing? Well, there might actually be worth something. So for example, I have these cultivation embers here, and you might click on the hammer here and you're like, oh, this is worth nothing. Understand that this price here is per ember. What that means is, now these are only one listing, so usually disregard the first ones. These are going to be bought up immediately. But the things that matter are here. People are willing to buy your stuff more if you have more of them. They don't want to click through 46 people to get their 46 cultivation embers. So while if you only have one, you might not be able to list for more than this. You have 46 of them, you can list in this region. And in order to get to the price for 46 of these, you can put out your calculator and you can say, all right, let's say 0.12 seems fair. So let's do 46 times 0.12, 5.52. Now you can decide, you can round it down to 5, you can round it up to 6, whatever you think is going to work. In this case, you're definitely going to sell it for 6. So usually if you have these amounts, you can round up. And if it doesn't work, you can just reprice it later. And this is important to know because all of you will have these. All of you will have these embers. And you're like, oh, maybe I need it to craft later. Well, you're probably going to need FEs to buy upgrades. And later, if you need the crafting materials, you can just buy them back because other people put up their stuff as well. So as you are listing them right now, other people are listing them as well. You can just buy it yourself. So my tip would be always stay liquid. Always convert stuff into FE. Same goes, for example, for flame sand. Now, flame sand, in order to know how much it actually sells for, you kind of have to check a little bit in the trade house. If you go here, once again, trade house, we go down to the currency. It says fuel here, right? We go with flame sand. Now, people are selling 99 for 4, 89 for 3. So this is something I do. I do like 90 for free. That obviously changes. Don't think this is like gospel because you could watch this in 1 or 2 months and it's going to be completely different. But just check here what other people are doing. And if you list it for the same price or a little bit lower, chances are you're going to sell faster. If you don't care about it, just price it at where everybody else prices it. Same thing goes for memory cards, by the way. You might randomly pick these up and not think much about it. I just want to tell you that some of these actually drop, not frequently, but they can drop. It's not out of the ordinary. Some of these uniques you're probably never going to see. I've never seen some of these uniques. They're insanely rare. But some of these they're possible, right? They've dropped from certain regions. Let's say you just dropped this card, this one card, and you're like, what is this going to be worth? I don't need to sell this. Well, you look at search and you're like, wait, what the hell? This is worth more than 20 FE. Or let's look at an extreme example, which is Wheel of Time. You just found Wheel of Time and you're like, wait, what's happening here? Well, people want this because it gives a certain unique that is worth 1,000 or more Flame Elementium. So yeah, always check your memory cards is what I'm saying. They're right here. Check them. Also, something to note is people actually buy beacons. Now, this is not something you want to do from the get-go, but the higher your cards will level up, the better your farming setup will get, the higher your chance that you're actually going to have way too many of these. So, for example, I will never be able to use all of these Voidland beacons, so I might as well sell them. Well, how much do they sell for? Not that much, but it's better than them rotting in my inventory. So, for example, it says 0.05 here. So, if I wanted to sell 99, once again, I can just put out the calculator, 0.05 times 99, somewhere around 5 FE. Now, if you put up 99 for 5 FE, high chance that it will actually sell. Now, one more thing I want to remind you of, these swirly things here. You will drop these from tier 7 bosses, and they open tier 8 timelines, right? And these ones are actually quite expensive. Now, the Voidland ones, I think, is not that expensive. It's like 1. Actually, it is pretty expensive. So if you have a lot of these, you can sell them roundabout for 1.5 FE each. These basically drop from every watcher in a tier 7 timeline. You might have like 5 or 6 lying around, so get your FE. Also sell your compasses. Now, this is a little bit of a bad example. I already sold all the compasses that are worth something, but you can price check these, and some of these, example, the Dazzling, which are the highest tier, some of them are worth up to 8 FE for one of them, right? And you know how they drop like candy. This one, for example, isn't worth that much. I could, at this point, sell like 3 of these for 1 FE. But overall, if you do this a lot, for example, 99 of these. Let's look at how much they're worth. They're like 0.03. But nonetheless, you could still edge out like 3 FE for this. So what I'm trying to say here, don't underestimate how much just random currency you have lying around. You can basically translate all of these into Flame Elementium and then buy the items you want, the upgrades you need. And so many people don't do that, and they get stuck at like Timeline 5, Timeline 6. They say this game's too hard, but overall, you're just kind of missing the point here. Definitely use the auction house. It's going to give you a huge advantage. You can do stuff without auction house later once we're more experienced, but at the start, you really need that boost. But overall, I hope this video could help you out, maybe learn a thing or two, and see you. But that's it for the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, subscribe. As always, a huge shout out to my Twitch subscribers and my Patreons. I couldn't do videos like this without you. Thank you so much for the support. And yeah, the auction house, very intimidating at first. I hope I could demystify it a little bit. Definitely incredibly important to get your end game items. If you're just thinking about pure FE drops, they don't drop that often. You drop all these small currencies, you sell them for FE, you get that FE, and then you buy your upgrade items. It's not about raw Flame Elementium drops. I hope I could make this clear throughout this video. But with that being said, since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.